Cheers, y'all.
Well. Welcome, my friends, to this fine little radio program known internationally and in several states as Smokin' and Toastin'. We are glad to be here for show number 148. It is the program that's all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars, and we are brought to you by our friends and the fine folks at B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth, Texas, and BB Italia on Memorial in Houston, and, of course, BB Lemon, which is right across the street from the primary B&B Steakhouse location. They have great food, amazing bacon, and
the mixed drinks.
Yes, the mixed drinks.
The mixed drinks are so good.
And when you go and sit at the bar, tell them that you're a personal friend of Jeremiah, and he told you your drinks would be free.
Yes, do that.
That's the yeah. He told you to just come in and drop his name, and somebody would pick up the tab. They put it on his personal tab.
I wonder how many people have tried to do that.
Oh, I bet it happens all the time.
Is Jeremiah here? No. Well, he's a personal friend of mine.
Yeah, personal friend of mine. I actually went to dinner. I took my wife to dinner there about a month ago, and Jeremiah was not there, so I mentioned to the waiter, I said, I'm going to tell you this. I am friends with Jeremiah. I said, I don't know if I should now expect the service to improve or go the other way.
Or go completely away. Right?
And then the waiter proceeded to tell me a lie. He told me that he and Jeremiah were good friends and that they went out the other night for a drink. I said, I know that is not true. Jeremiah does not go out for a drink. Yes. So, but anyway, it's a great place to go. The food is terrific, and the bar. Wow, the bar. And they got a really nice area upstairs, by the way, where you can have a cigar after your meal if you're there later in the evening.
Oh man, and the weather is just so nice right now.
Well, right now it is. I will tell you. So we do want to say thank you to our guest from last week, Justin Jerfy from Ingenious Brewing, who brought some amazing beers, and I have one of them left in my fridge. And Ingenious is in Humble, so that means from my house that's a bit of a drive to go out and pick up more because you have to get them at the brewery. But I will be making that drive because those beers were that good.
It's not quite far enough to be called a pilgrimage.
Yes,
but it's a little bit of a hike. The thing is, like, if you drive out there when there's no traffic in Houston,
it's not bad.
It's probably like 30 minutes,
right? Which doesn't feel too bad.
But as soon as you add that one drop of Houston traffic in there, it becomes an hour and 15.
Yep, absolutely. So we'll make it out there. Maybe we should road trip it, Ian, you and me.
There you go.
I like it. So our guest this week, Jason Poehler, who's a representative of. Well, I know you work with my father, and you work with another company or two as well. Is that right?
Indian Head and La Galera.
Yeah, give us a little
Indian Head and La Galera. Sorry.
All good. So those are some pretty impressive brands.
Yeah, two vertically integrated companies in the industry.
Yeah,
wonderful partners for our retailers.
Good. Well, we will be looking forward to talking cigars with you.
I just lit up one of the my father La Opulencia, which of course is Spanish for the opulencia.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. Yeah,
I love this cigar. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and I have a My Father provided by Jason. Thank you, My Father the Judge. Which I'll let the cat out of the bag. I've had this cigar before, and I've had it before more than just once and more than just a few times because this is a wonderful
more than once.
Yeah, so we'll talk about this coming up. Also, in between Ian and myself. Our old friend returns to the show, Mr. Alan Denny. How are you?
Nobody cares about.
Who nobody cares about. That's correct. We have a so I forget now. Does this put you two up appearance wise on Chris
I was
Hart?
totally not going to bring that up at all, but since you did, I heard a comment that y'all
slipped
made.
me a piece of paper. It's right here. It said, "Bring up the." Yeah.
I don't know if it was when y'all were on Chris's show or if it was the last time Chris was on y'all's, but he made a comment about that we had lunch, and the only reason we went to lunch is because I had to put it out there that
you had to like
so
lord
it
it over
just so happens, completely unrelated to anything else, Chris and I have to have lunch tomorrow. I wonder what will be discussed.
I have a feeling you'll be paying. So, well, in any case, it's good to have you here. You have some things going on in your cigar universe, which we'll talk about.
I do.
So that's really exciting, and it's actually totally appropriate that you kind of podcrashed today. Podcrash basically means one of our guests was invited to be on the show today. One of them just showed up, and that would be the Podcrasher, Mr.
Hey,
Denny.
you show up at Stogie's, and there's no telling who could be
I
here.
was going to say,
That's
in
right.
fairness, you have an open invitation, so you can always.
As a rookie, I'm glad to have the help.
Yeah. So, but it was actually you that introduced me to Jason when we were at the Stogie's Wingding last year, and because I said, hey, I don't really know anybody that works with my father. We've never had a representative on. You said, come this way.
I know a guy.
Yeah. So he introduces me to Jason. We have a short conversation, explaining the show. He's like, sure, I'll be happy to be on. So we set up for Jason to come on the show. And as it turns out, the night before, I think you were in town, but the night before you got really, really sick. And
Yes.
you were not feeling good enough to be on the show the next day. Unlike some others who have had to cancel last minute, you totally did the stand-up thing and lined up somebody else to come in your
right.
place.
That's
and
right.
that was when we met your brother Tom.
That's correct.
Who we've also gotten to be good friends with, and he came on the show, and we had a great time with him, and subsequently have had him. Well, we've had some good times hanging out with him. Let's just put it that way.
Absolutely.
So anyway, thanks to both of you for expanding our little network here and allowing us to enjoy some good cigars with some good people. It's been a lot of fun. So Ian, crazy week. What's going on with you? I mean, we're smoking these now, so we'll talk about them in a few minutes. But anything you need to report? What's your week been like?
This week's been fantastic. Since I got back from IPCPR, I got a whole bunch of interviews and things, and we haven't had a chance to put them on because we've had so
such
many
stellar
guests.
guests.
We've had guests, and then on locations, which makes it a little difficult. So I believe next week we'll be able to actually
Yes.
put on a few of those things. And I have a cigar that I had mentioned to the gentleman that gave me the cigar that I would review for the show, so I'll let him know, and I'll let you guys know what that's going to be this week. And so that's pretty much it. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to we finally get to meet Jason, who we were supposed to meet, like you said, last year, or was it early this year?
I think it was last year.
Yeah.
Last fall.
It was last fall. But that was so awesome when you did that, and you're like, hey, but my brother's in town, and subsequently we got to meet him. And that ended up with us getting invited to go to JRE Farms in Honduras, and that was a lot of fun too.
Well,
So you went.
Yes, we did. And
Oh,
we had a great
fantastic.
time doing
Yeah,
it.
it was a wonderful time.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
hospitality was great. Learned a whole lot about how they do their version of everything from soil to the boxes.
Yes,
basically.
that was a lot of fun. So I'm super excited. My Father Cigars is one of these brands that it doesn't matter which stick you pick up; it's always going to be a great stick. La Galera, I've had a few La Galeras. I've never been disappointed with those. I'm not as familiar with the line, but I'm super excited to talk about those too. That's pretty fun.
An Indian head.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Indian Head. I don't know
love
anything
that.
about Indian Head.
All right.
Indian Head is a parent company of the La Galera brands.
Okay.
So, and they all come out of the Tabacalera Palma factory in Dominican Republic, all
Okay.
owned by Hochi Blanco, whose family's been doing this since 1936, and for decades they've been making cigars for other people as well. They're actually the second largest growers of tobacco in Dominican Republic, as I understand. But about 3.5 years ago, they brought out the La Galera brands.
Right.
So now they're in the forefront. They're presenting their own cigars to the people. So we're building that market up right now.
That's very cool.
Fantastic.
That's very
Fantastic.
cool. Well, we'll talk more about that. We'll talk about what's in the line and what to expect, and of course what's going on with my father. The trade show IPCPR was just that Ian was able to crash of several weeks ago. So a lot of brands have put out new things or have new things that are about to come to market, and so it's a pretty exciting time in the cigar world, particularly because with the looming regulations, a lot of companies are releasing maybe a few more things than they ordinarily would because they're things that they put on the docket before the approval period.
Right.
was,
So the
was-
phantom
was
brands,
activated. Yes,
as you'd
right,
put it.
right. And we
Were you
talked about a
were you in
phantom
fact out
brand.
at IPCPR?
I was.
Did you notice that the whole acid booth was like a disco party?
It is every year. Was this your first trade show?
That was my first trade show.
Oh, it's like a disco ball party every
it
time.
was like hip hop disco party.
Yeah,
over
and
there.
I think there's a few booths that compete to make the most noise. So, and Drew Estate's always up there. They do a great job, though. People really enjoy their booth.
Well, it was a great experience for you. Yeah, I love how you described when you first got onto the convention floor.
Oh yeah, just like walking in like a tourist in New York. It was like awe-striking, just wandering
It's
around.
overwhelming, isn't it?
Absolutely overwhelming. That building's so huge inside. It's at the Sands Convention, and it's just this huge open room that's absolutely insane, and covered with booths, from single plot booths to I don't know what size some of the bigger names were. They were huge, and what was real important there was cracking me up. Everyone had their rugs. Like you had to have the rugs in your booth.
Right.
That was funny.
Yeah. Well,
That's
'cause
for
they're
the
gonna be standing
padding.
on 'em all
Yes,
day.
that's for the padding, and
Yeah.
you can't have too much of that when you're staying in for 3.5 days.
Well, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, Ian, you could and maybe should be a little surprised that I actually made it to the show today,
What happened?
because yesterday was National Tequila Day. And needless to say, I did a little celebrating.
How was National Tequila
The
Day?
National Tequila Day was great. One of the things I'll be sharing with you on the show today is a handful of really great tequila tweets for National Tequila Day.
Nice. See, I didn't even know her. I would have had
Yeah.
tequila at my house.
Yeah, I enjoyed some of the Skelly is what I had. I'm out of my
That's so good.
Reserva de la Familia, which is my sort of special
Right.
occasion tequila. So I went with the Skelly, and it was just absolutely
I
wonderful.
have to
And
look
now
at
I'm
my
out of the
shelf to
Skelly.
even see what I have. I know I have some of the Padron and Añejo. I have a few others in there that are pretty nice. I need to go by and get some of that Skelly. Skelly's so good.
You can't claim to be Texan if you're not keeping some tequila around.
Yeah.
Now, can you?
I do have some tequila. It's just I don't remember what all I have. I'm more of a whiskey drinker and beer drinker in general. So,
Ian-
although I've been turned on to some tequilas and rums through the show because he's more of a tequila and rum kind of guy.
Speaking of rum, by the way, on today's show we'll be tasting the New Grove Mauritius Island 8-year-old tradition rum. I will admit to you, Ian, this bottle is not brand new. This bottle's been in my bar for a little while.
All right, today trying to answer the age-old question: what do you do with a drunken sailor?
Yes, it happens today. I think you're going to like this rum, but we'll see. I think you're going to like it. So we'll all be tasting that, plus some interesting beers on the show today from, from right up the road, Shiner, Texas. We'll be tasting Shiner Brewing's Bohemian Black Lager. This is not a new beer.
No, this has been out.
It's been out for a while.
15 years, 12
but
years?
I thought it was definitely worthy. It's not something we've tasted on the show before. So
Yeah, that came out as one of their. They had a series. Shiner had a series where they numbered them. There was 100th anniversary, then there was 101, 102, and so on. And only a few of those beers that they released under that series, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but only a few of those beers that they released in that series actually stuck as part of their line.
The 97 did. That was when they were counting down to their 100.
Right, exactly. So you know exactly what I'm talking about.
95, 96.
okay, I'm going to prompt you to pick up the mic again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was when they were building up to celebrating their 100th anniversary. And they had a 95, 96, 97, 98,
Right.
99, and I believe it was the 98 that became the Black Lager.
Okay, gotcha. So it
That's
wasn't
really-
after 100. It was.
I think they
before
stopped
100.
at
Okay,
100.
gotcha.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think, in Texas that are in, kind of the serious craft beer movement, we tend to take Shiner a little for granted, I think. And, of course, we've had Jimmy from Shiner on the show.
Oh,
and
he's
like
so
maybe
fun.
one of the greatest guests ever.
He's hilarious.
He's just
Absolutely-
amazingly,
absolutely hilarious.
you go back and watch the show. It's so definitely worth it. But Texas-based craft beer would not be where it is today without Shiner. I mean, they were really the innovators, and they still brew some really great beer. And so I was excited to taste the black because that's been one of my sort of go-to Shiners for a while. So
I stood for 10 minutes in front of the beer section last week in the Shiner section looking at all the different kinds of beers they have. They have a cherry limeade beer now, and it's in a set with the cactus and something else. I guess those are set up for the summer.
Oh, right.
Many different
Yes.
Shiner Bock
Oh, yeah.
beers
Because they
now.
got the prickly pear one.
They have the prickly
Ruby
pear.
Redbird.
Yeah.
They have quite a few. They have quite a few of the summery flavored ones.
that
Right.
Ruby Redbird comprised almost an entire summer of my life about 10 years ago. I mean, that was just like
Shiner Bock got me
all
through
I-
college.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah, and I talked sometimes when I explain to people like the beer scene, like when I moved to Boston, and the best way I could explain how influential Harpoon was up in the Boston area to someone that was formerly from Texas, sorry about that, or someone from Texas, is to say it's almost like the Shiner Bock of that area, in
Right.
that it it's everywhere.
Right.
Like it's on tap in all the bars, or and now things are a little bit different. But if you think back to about 10 years ago, you would go into a bar, you'd have your macro brews, and then they'd have several other choices, and one of them was always Shiner Bock.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and being a musician and playing in all the bars and clubs around, every bar had Shiner on tap, and that's always what I drank, just because it was on tap. It was one of those where if you're drinking and the bar is gonna forgive some of your drinks because you're playing, that's an easy one for them to do, and you're not drinking like the super premiums. But I always thought that's a great beer, and I meet people all the time that kind of hate on it. They're like, oh, Shiner. The truth is, Shiner's fine. It's great beer.
Shiner's fantastic. It's so consistent, and I like having it always on stock at the house because you can get almost anyone to drink it, even if they're a macro brew,
right.
Even if they normally drink Budweiser or whatever. They'll drink a Shiner, and then I don't get stuck with a whole bunch of Bud Light in my fridge.
I end up with Shiner as a go-to as well because I'm not always wanting a bunch of hops. Let me just be frank. Sometimes I just don't want the hops.
Yes. Speaking of hops, there may be some in this next beer that we're going to try today.
Of course there is.
From Westchester, Pennsylvania, which has become a real little brewing hub just outside Philadelphia. Levante Brewing Company's Citra Drink. It's a New England-style pale. And so it's one of those in the 16-ounce cans. We'll be tasting that one today. And then I know you've got to be excited about this one, Ian. From Seattle, Washington, and Fremont Brewing, it's their 2019 Rusty Nail barrel-aged. So really excited to do all of that tasting. Bless you. And plus we have some interesting things to talk about today. In addition to the tequila tweets, we're going to run through 30 beers that changed America. So we were just talking about, influential beers from the early days. Speaking of which. And
it'll be fun to know how many of those I've actually had.
That's one of the great things about these lists when we come across them is like to see how many of them, A, we've had, or B, we've even heard of.
I haven't seen this list, but I'm going to make a few guesses. I'm going to guess that Yingling is definitely on there.
I think that's a fairly safe guess.
I'm going to guess that Harpoon is on there. Sierra Nevada is
a good guess.
Sam
Probably
Adams is going to be on there.
Anchor.
No Budweiser's going to be there. That Coors is going to be in there. Come on now.
But Budweiser probably should be on the list because it's about 30 beers that changed America. And certainly Budweiser did that. Before Budweiser started their current policy of buy up craft breweries while simultaneously trying to insult the people who buy their products.
Well, this is a new strategy, though, because what they were doing before then was strong-arming the distributors into not carrying those products.
Well, don't think that strong arming doesn't still exist. They
know.
just want you to carry their products, their craft products.
Yeah, so the grocery store by my house has a craft beer section that is exactly one half of one cooler wide, and then the other half of this is air quotes craft beer section is all Karbach now, which is AB InBev owned, and then they have about 7 doors. I need to take a picture of this. About 7 doors of blue cases of Bud Light, and I'm talking about full doors, floor to the top of the cooler, but in the middle of it is all the Karbach Crawford Bock.
Well, listen, Karbach thankfully does make some good beers. Mm-hmm. That's the great thing. But yeah, it is interesting. As much as I like some of their beers and as much as I like the people over there, I really would go for more choice. Now, let me make sure I know this correct. You're based out of Dallas, is that right? A Dallas area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I was in Dallas on a short little vacation recently, and I know there are several pretty prominent craft breweries in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But in going to a couple of grocery stores, a couple of places just to pick up some beer, I was a little underwhelmed by the choice of craft product that you would get, say, at a grocery store in Dallas versus what I'm used to seeing at the grocery stores here in Houston. I wonder if that was consistent with your experience. I came back thinking, wow, Houston's a little more craft forward just in terms of the general public and what's in grocery stores.
Maybe that has to do with HEBs that are down here versus in Dallas as much.
But we got even at the Kroger stores though. There's a pretty decent selection.
Well, I shop at the Kroger.
Yeah, so maybe I just wasn't in the right store.
They don't have enough.
Dallas.
I'll agree with you. They don't have enough for what Dallas represents in the craft brew world just yet. But it's a relatively new thing too,
right?
And maybe they haven't caught up. But
I do want to mention, for those of us out there who aren't familiar with H-E-B, that's one of our local grocery stores. And H-E-B is a Texas-based grocery store, and they are very Texas-centric when it comes to their products as well. So they do support a lot of the Texas craft beers. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Rumor time, by the way. I don't know if this is true, so I'll say this is just something I overheard. But I overheard that H-E-B may be looking to expand outside of the state of Texas. I don't know if that's true, but that they may be planning to
They're
go
getting
national.
huge.
Yeah.
They're getting huge. They're doing great with their stores. My only complaint about H-E-B is that the H-E-B by my house might as well be a Fiesta. It's like the oldest H-E-B ever, and it's like none of the modern stuff.
My biggest H-E-B complaint is parking.
Well,
they never
their
have
parking lots
enough
definitely leave something to be
parking.
desired.
Yes, but anyway. Well, Dallas, though, I mean, there's a couple of breweries in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. RAR, I think, is amazing.
Oh, that's in Fort Worth, I believe.
Yes, it is a
plug.
Fort Worth brewery, and Deep Ellum makes some great
That's right.
beers. And there's what now I know they were part of the AB InBev purchase, but Revolver's based out of Dallas-Fort Worth area.
That's
isn't it?
That's
Am I wrong about that?
That's west of Dallas,
West
Fort
of
Worth
Dallas,
area,
okay.
right? That's in.
I think it's southwest. I'm not sure of the town, but I want to say it's southwest of Fort Worth.
Okay.
Down
yes, and I can't think of the name of the town right now, but it's not too far from it.
Granbury?
Well, I'll
That
tell you.
sounds right.
I'll tell you. Here in the Houston area, we claim all the outlying areas. We go, yeah, those are all Houston breweries, and we've had some great ones on the show. But
Conroe, Willis?
but we really
that's all
should.
Houston, yeah.
We really should think about doing a road trip and hitting some Dallas craft breweries for the show.
That'd
and
be
having
awesome.
featuring
You
some
base
of
yourself in my neighborhood and practically walk to 7 of them.
I love it.
Nice.
Okay, I believe we've just been invited to stay at Jason's house. Is that what you heard? That's what I think I heard.
Yeah. I'll just tell my girlfriend to park elsewhere so the garage will be open. That'd be great.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk cigars, and we'll talk about the 30 beers that changed America. Plus, and I don't know how much he can talk about this, but Alan Denny is here, who's been with the EP Carrillo Tobacco Company for some time. EP Carrillo
Going on
Cigars,
2 years now, yeah.
who've had a banner couple of years in terms of the product that they've released. But our buddy, a guy we've had on the show who was a great guest, Jose Blanco, is leaving EP Carrillo.
Yes.
And apparently he's not the only one. So I don't know how much you can talk about, Alan, but we'll ask you a few questions when we come back.
Sure.
And see what you can tell us. So plenty of cigar gossip, and also Uprock's blind tequila tasting results in our little nod to this week's tequila national holiday.
I'm gonna have to make up on the tequila day. I didn't even know.
Okay,
you have
well,
to text me these things.
This can be
Every
done.
day's tequila day.
Thank you. And we'll be right back. It's Smoking and Toasting, show number 148 with our guest Jason Poehler and Alan Denny. We'll be right back.